No way. Holy shit. Yeah, so are you saying it tilted like the gimbal? Wow. We have something extraordinary. What happens when a man decides to speak the truth? So would you go on record at least saying that?
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Now I am become the destroyer of worlds.
In my association with Project Group, they definitely withheld information.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Total Disclosure. I'm your host, Tyler Roberts, and tonight we're taking a giant step forward in the fight for transparency. Joining me is a new voice that you need to know, UFO researcher and advocate Melissa Madrigal, whose new approach to the phenomenon has earned her quite the respect across the field. Alongside her, we're honored to be joined by the new head of the International UFO Bureau, now fully revamped with a clear mission: to gather credible sightings, analyze them with scientific rigor, and give both researchers and experiencers a trusted place to report encounters without fear, without ridicule, and without suppression. This is a turning point. The International UFO Bureau is rolling out a brand new reporting mechanism, secure, accessible, and focused on data integrity. No more red tape, no more black holes of silence. This system is designed to collect not just stories, but evidence, satellite telemetry, radar returns, biometric responses, and so much more. It's a centralized hub for experiencers, scientists, and pilots and military professionals alike. But that's not all, because tonight we're proud to announce something monumental. For the first time, we're revealing the identity of a high-ranking individual who is coming forward as a whistleblower with direct, first-hand experience involving unidentified aerial phenomena. His credentials are beyond reproach. His courage, undeniable. First off, I do want to thank the ladies for coming in tonight. So thank you both for being here. I guess I really want to start off with, Mindy, and talk about the International UFO Bureau, what it is, why you revamped it, and what's the big deal?
Well, first, thank you for having me in here tonight, Ty. I appreciate it. I always love working with you and with Melissa. We've got such a wonderful team that has assembled it was almost like by design. I would have to say something guided all of us to come together under the banner of the Bureau, because we only started this a few months ago and it has just continued to grow, as you've seen. So I'm so excited to be heading it up and bringing all of the things that we're putting together to the public. And I know people have to be a little bit patient. It's going to take some time to get everything together, but rest assured, everything is moving ahead in the background. We're working tirelessly to get our database completed and to get the reporting form up, which should be up in the next couple of days. We also just today put up our volunteer application. So people have been coming to us in droves wanting to know how to join the Bureau. And we now have a way forward for that. So it's just an incredible, monumental task to get everything built out as quickly as possible, but maintaining that high level of professionalism that people have come to expect from so many in our team. So
absolutely.
So to back up the background of the Bureau, it was formed in 1957 by Hayden C. Hughes. And I grew up here in Oklahoma City. He was actually here. And yeah, there's our new logo. I hope that he would be very proud of what we've done with it. We kind of modernized what he had created back in the day. And so Hayden set this Bureau up back when he was a teenager. And he actually had gotten a visit from what he called the Men in Black, which I imagine it was the beginnings of the FBI that was showing up at his door and asking his mother to speak with Hayden. And she said, well, that's my 13-year-old. And he had written to the premier of Russia back then. And this was, beginnings of the Cold War. And they actually sent him copies of the pictures of the backside of the moon. And so whenever something came in from Russia to Hayden Hughes, the powers that be wanted to know what exactly that correspondence entailed. And so that really set a fire within him. He was always interested in the UFO phenomena. And once he knew that the FBI was now watching, he really wanted to dig into it. So it set off years and years of some of the biggest investigations. He was there for the Aurora crash investigation, which it happened back in 1897. But they revisited the site in the 70s and took several samples and did analysis of like the well water and the grave site where supposedly a being not of this world was buried. We have the Jimmy Carter report that came directly into the International UFO Bureau. And from what I understand, we're the only organization that holds a former presidential report such as this. So it's incredible that we've been able to catalog all of that history.
One of the things that really drew me in, I mean, not just because of the bringing, reporting, research and data analysis to the 21st century, which, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs, younger people like myself, like Melissa, so many others, Christina Gomez, there's such an integral market of people that, don't really know about MUFON. They don't really have experience with reporting these things. And, there's no one out there telling them where to go to report it. So to bring younger people and others who've had encounters that maybe MUFON wouldn't have taken as serious, I think is going to be something that the community it not only needs, but I mean, it deserves.
Right. Well, and our motto is actually illuminating the past, understanding the present, and guiding the future. And that's a big part of what we're trying to take into account as we approach a new way of looking at the phenomena and understanding it and utilizing current capabilities to understand it in a whole new way. So in illuminating the past, we're bringing in all those archives from Hayden that he had for, 50 years or so of investigations that we're bringing in. We're using that and combining it with modern reports and even reports from the indigenous community, which one of our board of directors, Michelle Miners, has collected more than 500 reports from the indigenous communities that is going to help to inform us of what they've been seeing and what is in their traditions from thousands of years. And then marrying that with things that are coming in today and understanding how the phenomena may have changed, how it may have stayed the same. If there's groupings of different types of sightings or encounters, there's so much that we can dig into once we narrow it down to the true unknowns. And we can do that deep data analysis and start really understanding more about this phenomena in a public sphere. There may be things that the government or military may know that they're not sharing with us, but I truly believe that today we are disclosure. We have so many tools, and with the whole community coming together, we are a force to be reckoned with whenever we bring everyone together. You had mentioned about the different generations, and that's one of the really interesting things with the Bureau is we have some of the older generations from like the boomer generation that are helping guide this. I myself, I'm Gen X. I'm kind of on the cusp there. I'm between Gen X and millennial. And then we have millennials and even some Gen Z that are helping inform what we're doing today. So we're trying to bring in that new technology, utilize everything that is at our fingertips to be able to understand this on a whole new level. And I'm so excited about the things that it's going to start revealing to us. So one of the people that we're very excited about bringing to the foreground and really giving a platform to is Melissa Madrigal. And I actually found her on TikTok, and she was talking about some things that really piqued my interest. And I thought, my goodness, this girl is fantastic. And I was blown away that most of the people in UFO, communities don't know her. And so I quickly snagged her up like I did with you, Ty, and said, please join the Bureau. We need to have your voice heard and to represent kind of the younger generations and get them involved in what we're doing. I think that within the millennials and younger, most of y'all just already accept that this is a true phenomena. And so it's not something that has to be proven like it was with the boomers and with Gen X. Really, we were more like, there has to be something out there. And now you guys are like, of course there is. So there's a gap there in wanting to get the younger people involved to really report, because it's so important for us to understand what we're seeing in the skies and what's going on. So we have to get this younger generation involved. And Melissa and yourself, Ty, you guys are the best. So I will take a step back and let Melissa speak. I can't wait for people to really get to know her.
I appreciate that. I'm really excited to be on board. My name is Melissa. I'm the Director of Research at the International UFO Bureau, and I have been leading a multi-phase investigation into 2 verified UAP cases, and what we've uncovered changes everything. This first release is going to drop in June, and it's revealing structure, behavior, and a signal data that directly challenges how we understand aerial systems and information transmission. And then the second release, which will come out later this year, goes even deeper into the findings with deeper layers, harder evidence, and findings that redefine what's possible both in aerospace and communication theory. This no longer is speculation. It's a signal. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. There's some cool stuff in the mix.
I am heavily involved with the UFO Bureau as the chief marketing officer, also handling, government relations. So what I really like about the Bureau is it's, like you said, multifaceted approach to research, to analysis, to forming patterns and seeing patterns. How are we going, how are you going to approach, taking large data sets and trying to pull something out of it?
It's a very large question.
Very.
But I'm using progressive disclosure and building a complexity through harmonic ladder analysis and propulsion inferences. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. It's just layer by layer. I don't want to talk too much and give away too many secrets. There's definitely a system to it.
Are you going to be afraid to use artificial intelligence and other tools to help?
Absolutely not. I think that it's a great thing to use AI, but here's the thing about AI. What I have found out through using artificial intelligence is that the computer mimics you. So there's a lot of people talking about telepathy, that the AI is reading their minds. But what I did figure out is that it's data stack, and it's prediction from probability. So there is some things that can be a little bit that I'm a little hesitant on. But as far as research goes, AI seems to be pretty spot on. It's cool to see even the doctors now pull out their phones and use AI to come up with the answers that would take them a lot longer to come up with. So we're progressing forward, but we need to be careful.
And I can definitely understand that. And what I really like about this organization and what the basically the outlook is because we're not starting from a position of, Mindy had talked about, is trying to prove that there is something there. It's now shifted to what is there. It's not about the ifs anymore. It's, we know something's happening, but how can we attribute it to, different maybe craft shapes, different being types. And these are things that oftentimes in other reporting agencies have been either looked down upon, or not taken seriously. And it sounds like the Bureau is going to be welcoming all types of different cases.
Absolutely. We won't know what we have until we actually get all of the reports. We can't shut the door and say no paranormal, no cryptids. We don't know if there's a correlation until the data itself tells us that. And correlation does not equal causation. We know that. But we have to at least take a look at it. We have to listen to our experiencers, because the experiencers are the ones that have had the direct contact with these kinds of entities. And if they have the feeling that, okay, I saw a craft and I saw Bigfoot, it sounds ridiculous, but is there a correlation there?
Right.
We won't know until we have that quantitative data to start breaking it down and seeing how everything really fits in. So at the beginning, we're not shutting the doors on anything. Let's take it all in. Let's see what we got. Let's see how it plays out and what the data itself tells us. And out of that, what we're trying to do is better inform, like, our law enforcement and first responders whenever they come across something like what happened with the Stephenville lights, or what recently happened out in Vegas, or the reports that were out at the Miami Mall sighting. How do they respond to this? Is there a threat level? Is this just a research mission that seems to be taking place? We won't know the who, the why, the where from. We won't know any of that until we start bringing all that data together and let it speak for itself, and then put it out there for public consumption. Let the public take it. And then with thousands of minds behind it, that's how we start making better breakthroughs and we better understand things. Because even though we have a wonderful team here at the Bureau, it's the public's input that will help guide us, and vice versa. We'll be able to put things out as they're wanting to hear. They'll probably come up with things that we haven't even thought of on the back end. So it's going to be a very give and take situation.
Yeah, I think that kind of what makes us very different is how transparent we are. The fact that we don't discredit anything that comes through. We look at it, discredit it if it needs to be discredited. But we have, the transparency is such a big thing in UFO culture. And I think that a lot of people don't have a safe space they can come to and say, these people are being honest. They're not leading us towards a path that's going to create more confusion. I think overall that this whole organization is a really wonderful thing coming out into the community.
Yeah. And I guess a question of mine would be, or a question of mine if I was someone maybe watching and listening, is how, will cases be investigated like other organizations? And, how will that work?
Absolutely, they will be investigated. Whenever things will come in, when we get time, date, location, we can start running the checks automatically and call that information back to our report form. So we'll be able to tell if there was flight number such and such in the sky that was actually flying from this part of the sky to that part of the sky. If there was a SpaceX launch, if there's anything that's prosaic that might explain it, we'll have that information at the forefront. Then the investigation really begins. So if we can identify it, then it does not need to be part of our unidentified data set. The ones that remain unexplained, I absolutely, coming from a nursing background, I worked ICU for over 10 years before I had my children and stayed home. But I understand the need for both sides of the investigation, where we need to offer support and validation to the person coming forward, but we also need to have evidence to back up what they're saying. So I think it's very important that we get people out in the field to respond in person to these reporters and see if there's any evidence we can collect to back up what they're saying. And I've said this before, I've had one encounter, and during my encounter, I had two of the most ridiculous things that I thought were out there that I had heard reported. And I said, that's kind of strange. That's exactly what happened to me, were the two strangest things. So is that a consciousness thing, or is that, something that's been put into my mind as a screen recording or something to make me see something ridiculous? Or did I just happen to encounter something ridiculous? We don't know.
It's a very good question.
Yes, we start getting all of that information together. Let's listen to the experiencers. And on the backside of that, we have Seb Talk, who has now joined our team. And she's our director of Connect. She'll be running online communities to bring experiencers together to offer support for even family members. Some of the experiencer communities will be closed to only people that have been screened before and have been allowed into it, just to protect their anonymity and give them free rein to speak. But there's so many different communities that we're looking at setting up. There might be one for, a book that people are reading through, or, family members.
Or abductions, and maybe a safe space where they can talk about their encounters with others and not feel criticized or ridiculed. I think that's such a brilliant idea.
That's it. Well, and you can even look on the other side where we can have things for free energy and military members that can come in. We're looking at different communities that we can set up and offer to the whole UFO community, where we can bring people together and they can share ideas and help lead us forward in what we're doing.
Mini think tanks. I like it.
Yeah.
It's like the civilian sector of the UFO underbelly world. That's really, really cool. And I think obviously a huge part of today's, I don't know if you want to call it UFO narrative, but whistleblowers have been coming forward. Now, how would you approach a whistleblower? And can whistleblowers come to the Bureau and be protected and be anonymous?
Absolutely. That's something that started forming actually before we had started to bring the Bureau back into standing. I had been approached by a gentleman online, and he lived here in Oklahoma as well. And we started building an online relationship, just speaking about some of the things that he had been doing, where he was working, some of the lectures he was giving, and we became very good friends. And whenever we decided to go ahead and restart the Bureau, with the blessing of Hayden's widow, she had given us all the archives, and she said, "Yes, honey, go for it." And Hayden would be so happy. So I started trying to assemble my board of directors, and this gentleman was actually one of the first ones that I contacted and said, "I've got to have you on the board," because just his experience that he brings, his wisdom and guidance, he's top notch. And so he immediately said, "Yes, I'm absolutely with you, Mindy." And now I guess we're going to go ahead and be able to reveal who this is. But he is wanting to come forward with things that he encountered, things that he's coming forward with as far as reverse engineering that he saw during his time out at Cape Canaveral. And this guy has the highest respect from me. And we had discussed ways that he could bring this information forward to the public, and if he wanted to remain anonymous. But he said, absolutely not. I think people need to know. They need to know my credentials, and they need to know my standing, that I would not put any of that in jeopardy. to reveal this information if it were not true. And so now that he is officially retired, he's going to be coming forward with that information.
Now, I've already sat down with this individual. I was lucky enough to obviously be contacted by you pretty early on in the process to do an in-depth kind of conversation. And my God, this guy, he's got a credential, like a resume that reads kind of like a science fiction novel. And it's truly impressive. I want you to be able to introduce him. He's your friend, and you've been given the permission to say his name.
Yes, absolutely. And we've been holding this back for a few months. I mean, ever since the Bureau was relaunched, and we've been building up to this. So I'm so excited for the public to meet my friend, Dr. Gregory Rogers, and all of his credentials, all that he has done for the American public, for NASA, for the armed services. He has been a teacher for the armed services. He was part of Joint Command. He oversaw some of the NASA launches and recovery, and was directly responsible for the astronauts there. So whenever he steps forward and says what he saw, it brings such huge credibility to it. There he is. Look how young he was.
Nuclear submarine here. One of my favorite pictures that he did send over was the one him and Buzz, because he actually does have a book, Impact, out, which can be bought on Amazon. And it's actually really interesting because Dr. Rogers UFOs aren't his life. He's also a big proponent of astronaut safety. I really think that side of him is very fascinating.
Absolutely. He brings so much. He was so worried about his reputation and people trying to tear it down. And I said, Greg, no one can tear down your reputation. He's such a sweetheart, and he's very nervous about coming forward, but he feels like it's his duty. And he was actually pretty angry that this was revealed to him. He's still battling with that all these years later, with why was I shown this? And why have I had to carry this burden of this knowledge for all of these years? And so that's something he's still trying to work through mentally, is that anger of having this information revealed to him back then, when he was just trying to act as a surgeon and
right.
and oversee the health of all the crew. And here he comes face to face with something that he was never expecting. Yeah.
It's truly a wild story. And I know that either on May 4th or 5th, whichever comes first, whichever happens first, our interview will go out either on May 4th or 5th with Dr. Rogers. We have a pretty good, if you want to get to know him on a deeper level, I go into not just his encounter, but himself and his story. And he's such a brilliantly spoken person that it's hard to not, when these people do come forward, we have to be careful about how we react, because when people react emotionally, to these things and they get upset, it's just another story. It's just another person telling it to you. Yeah, but it's not every day that someone who's the chief of medicine for NASA steps forward and tells you that something's there. So we have to give people the platform to be able to be comfortable and to tell their story.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what we're trying to work out with the Bureau going forward. We've actually put together a whistleblower report form that can go along with some of the other report forms that we have already, and line out things for people to do to protect themselves if they're worried about their safety or they're worried about their identity coming out. Everything obviously coming into the Bureau is restricted to just the highest need to know level. But even as far as reporting, people can come forward and report using a VPN and register a Google Voice number or use a burner phone, PO box, things to separate themselves from being able to be identified if they're wanting to share information that they'd like to get out to the public. We can help give them that platform. If they want it to just be internal for the Bureau alone to know, we can keep it to ourselves and have it within that platform. Or we can help, kind of like we're doing with Dr. Rogers, pave a way forward to be able to release the information in a respectable and best way possible, utilizing some of the people that we have within our network to handle it really at the highest level and with the most integrity that we can.
Absolutely. And what I really liked about, this whole thing was the fact that, you can choose to stay anonymous, or we have ways to get your story to the government and to members of Congress. And if that's a route that you do want to take, then, there's ways that we can legitimize what you're trying to do. So, we have the outlets and the mechanisms to make certain things available to people who may have been on the inside, who may be, nervous about coming forward. There are ways to do it safely.
As safe as possible. There's always risk
in
coming forward. And that should obviously be first and foremost. We understand that there is a risk. And one of the things we actually put in our whistleblower report form is if you feel like you are in imminent danger, contact the authorities. We are not the authorities. If they feel comfortable and they feel safe in bringing the information forward, we're a good platform for being able to do that, because we are already doing that with Dr. Rogers, and we'll be able to repeat that same process in the future. So I hope that it's somewhere that someone, if they do have information, they'll at least think of us and go, okay, let me see if I can follow the same route as Dr. Rogers, because he has really just stepped forward and really put himself out there. And, as we've been growing with the Bureau and trying to fill out, okay, what's the best possible way going forward? We now have a roadmap because of him. So I can't thank him enough. And I can't thank him enough for bringing the information to the public that he's going to be releasing here in a few short days.
Just a few short days?
It's been hard sitting on it.
It's been hard sitting on it for sure. So Melissa, I want to kind of just round out here by asking what it's like to, how are you trying to reach a audience on these platforms like TikTok that, guys like me, maybe we don't understand as much as the long form content. You're very much, out there, putting the news out, and you're working with certain outlets and stuff like that. So how are you approaching that?
Being the social media manager on top of being the director, I'm not necessarily, we just started. So I'm mostly trying to get the organization itself out to the public, which is TikTok and Facebook and Instagram right now. And I think that you have X and a couple other Reddit maybe. But it's right now more getting people just aware that this company has rejuvenated. We're back, and to expect some things coming in the near future.
Big, and obviously Dr. Rogers' story is very big, but in the meetings that we've had about your research, I can tell people that not only is it interesting, but it's like mind jarring. So
this new stuff, I personally have not seen it in public eye anywhere yet. Maybe the military has access and hands on the stuff that is going to come out in that report. But at this point, I haven't seen it. So I'm excited to get it out.
It will resonate with a lot of people in the UFO community. That's for sure. And I think, what we're doing with the Bureau, Mindy, I think, my hat's off to you. In such a short time, you've put together such a wonderfully crafted team of people in the top of their field, from the Navajo Nation and the Rangers to a really driven, powerhouse set of women running this organization, but also having people like me around to help out.
Yeah. I wish I could take full credit for the amazing team, but it really has just kind of assembled itself. And Ty, you are not low on the rung.
I know.
You're one of my favorite people. And one of the things I love about the Bureau is we talk to each other every day. We're all actually friends, and we actually say, I love you, and, send well wishes, and we're involved in each other's lives. So it's not like we're just coworkers. We are friends, and we have a common goal. One of the things that we really wanted to do with the Bureau was untie people, let people really shine where they shine and what they know. And instead of trying to stifle what they're trying to do, let's prop them up. Let's give them resources. Let's give them backing and let them do it under the umbrella of the Bureau. So we have all these, like you had mentioned, with, UAPPD, we have Marianne Robb, and we have the Rangers doing everything with the indigenous communities. And we have so many wonderful, talented people. Steph Talk working with experiencers. These are the best of the best. And we're just, giving them a platform basically, and letting people come together and network and, support each other's work. And that's the beautiful thing of the Bureau is we haven't really had to do anything besides just support people and bring them together. And it has been amazing. I can't imagine where we're going to be next year by this time. With how fast everything has really built up, I am just making protocols as quickly as possible and trying to, get it run through 3-4 different levels of leadership so they can all look it over and approve it and make sure everything's lined out properly. But we are moving and shaking, and once we get that database up and going, there's nothing to hold us back.
Yeah, the UFO community will enter a new age of reporting, research, analysis, and probably the most hopeful I've been in a long time for the future of, reporting and analysis of the data, of trying to actually get answers and not just take in cases and just hide them behind a paywall. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the research we've talked about. It's the transparency is so important.
Well, Melissa, kudos to you, because what you're doing is such a big part of the puzzle. I texted you the other day, just thank you so much for all you're doing with social media. You are amazing with it and reaching out to the community. That's where that transparency comes from. That's where that community building comes from, is everything that you're doing with social media. And when people understand that you're not just a pretty face out there, because you're gorgeous and so well-spoken, you do social media so well, but here you are, this brilliant researcher. I cannot wait for the community to get hit with everything that you put together, because me and Ty know
I know
the magnitude. You are bringing such understanding to, and this is just off of 2 cases. Wait till we have 200 cases. Wait till we have 2,000 cases. Wait till it's 200,000. It's incredible. You are such an integral part of what we're doing with the front end, with talking with the community, and the back end with understanding the data.
Humbled to be a part of this community and be a part of the people within it. I have never met a stronger, more compassionate group that all gets along.
It's crazy when things work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
Together.
And I do want to end tonight. A lovely colleague of ours, Earl Grey Anderson, is passed away. It's the first time I've been able to talk about it. And I know, Mindy, you worked alongside Earl for a long time. And, for me, this has been really hard. And I just, I want people to know how much he meant to the community, to research, and his legacy of, doing it for the love of the game.
Absolutely. Me and Earl were pretty darn good friends. I will say people saw his public persona, but in the background, he was always such a champion for the experiencers and protecting them, supporting them, sharing his own story so that people didn't feel alone. He had such an amazing way about him. And I'll tell you kind of a little quick story. The first time I had gone on stage, I was speaking at a symposium, and I was so nervous. And I was sharing information about the Hartshorn case, which actually was part of the Bureau back in the 60s. And I ended up getting another case relating to Hartshorn a few years ago. And I got to present that at the symposium. And I was so nervous. Whenever I stepped off that stage, I sat there and talked with Earl. He ended up going on my Facebook page and writing the most beautiful and profound review. I forget what exactly he said. He was like, "Oh, you made the angels cry or something, and you presented that like a hot rotten something or other.
Oh my goodness.
I said, Earl, that has got to be the coolest compliment I have ever received in my life.
Yeah, that's Earl. That was Earl, and you know, kind of an ironic. You know, we talk in this field about like synchronicity, and you know, Melissa and I had one happen backstage, like before the show, where, and so I won't get into that one, but unfortunately, I got the news about Earl, and you know, I just kind of put my head down, and I kind of forget the pose that I was in, but I was in this room, and the TV was on, and all of a sudden, a Contact in the Desert commercial came on out of nowhere with his voice. He's in the commercial, and he said something about it, you know, how Contact in the Desert is a great thing, you know, yada yada. It was almost like this, like he came to me in that way, because you know, Contact in the Desert, you don't expect to see a commercial for it. First off, they've never done commercials, and so this is the first year, and it was on ABC News. It was like the most random place.
Wow.
So I was like, if that's not a synchronicity or like proof of concept for what we're all doing and what we're all like, why we're also adamantly rigorous in our approach and wanting to know answers, that's it. Those kind of moments where you just can't explain what's really happening. And
I wouldn't expect anything less from Earl.
Yeah, that truly.
My heart
truly.
goes out to his family and
Yes.
his beautiful wife, and I know the whole community is mourning.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I do want to say this, and like I said, my hat's off to both of you for what I've been able to watch you guys accomplish together with, you know, with myself and with so many other great people in the Bureau. We, like I said, we have the interview coming, and I'm super excited about it. It's really going to be something that I think a lot of people will really look forward to, really enjoy. And I think this is just the beginning for Dr. Rogers, you know, former chief of medicine for NASA, right? I think people are going to be pounding down his door, and the Bureau is going to be right there next to him, supporting him every step of the way. So with that being said, the mission is a go.
Absolutely. Can't wait, Ty.
Can't wait.
It's going to be amazing.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, obviously, for tuning in. If you are listening on one of our great podcast platforms or watching on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe, follow the show, and tell all your friends, your family. The aliens, the grays. I really don't discriminate. We'll see you next time.